Have you ever wondered how India, once the jewel in the British crown, transformed into the world's most populous democracy? The story begins in the year 1600, when the British East India Company docked its ships on Indian soil. They came as traders, lured by the subcontinent's famed spices, silk, and precious gems. But the British East India Company was no ordinary merchant venture. It was a corporate titan of its time, armed with its own private armies and a thirst for wealth that extended beyond mere trading. As their foothold in India strengthened, their intentions began to shift. The initial ties of trade and commerce gave way to a more sinister ambition: political and military control over the vast and diverse land of India. Over time, the company's influence grew, gradually morphing into a full-fledged colonial power. Thus began an era of British dominance that would last for centuries. Fast forward to the mid-1800s, British rule was at its peak. It was a time marked by the establishment of the British Raj, a period that followed closely on the heels of the Indian Rebellion of 1857. This uprising, a significant event in India's history, was a direct response to the heavy-handed policies of the British East India Company. As a result, the British government took direct control, signaling the start of the British Raj. The British Raj brought about a sea change in India's governance. The once fragmented subcontinent was now under the centralized rule of a foreign power. The British implemented a bureaucratic system, introducing civil services that created a new class of administrators. This era also saw the start of modern education, English language instruction, and the westernization of Indian laws, which had far-reaching implications on Indian society. Economically, the British Raj transformed India into a colonial economy, one that was primarily agrarian but was being rapidly industrialized for the benefit of the British Empire. New industries were introduced, and infrastructures like railways, telegraph, and postal services were established. But this economic progress came at a cost. India was turned into a supplier of raw materials and a market for British goods, leading to deindustrialization and famines. The social fabric of India also underwent dramatic changes. The British policy of divide and rule fostered communal divisions. The caste system was formalized and the seeds of religious discord were sown. However, this period also saw a social awakening. Western education brought about a renaissance in Indian society, leading to social reforms and the rise of a new intellectual class. Despite the profound changes, the British Raj was a period of exploitation and discontent. The Indian populace bore the brunt of oppressive policies and economic hardship. Yet, it was during this turbulent time that the first stirrings of a desire for self-rule began to take shape. The Indian National Congress was formed, and the struggle for independence began in earnest. It was a time of profound change, but the seeds of revolution were being sown. As the 20th century dawned, a new spirit of nationalism emerged in India. The Indian National Congress, established in the late 19th century, had now become a powerful force. It was a platform for Indians from different walks of life to voice their political opinions. The Congress was instrumental in molding the ideological landscape of the nation, bringing together individuals who shared a common goal: independence. Among these visionaries were Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru, two names that would become synonymous with India's struggle for freedom. Gandhi, with his philosophy of satyagraha, or nonviolent resistance, brought a new dimension to the fight for independence. His approach was not about winning or losing. It was about standing for what's right, even if it meant facing the harshest of consequences. One of the most iconic moments in this struggle was the Salt March of 1930. Gandhi and his followers embarked on a 240-mile journey on foot to the Arabian Sea, defying the British salt tax. Each step they took was not just a move forward geographically, but also a stride towards freedom. Meanwhile, Nehru, a charismatic leader and an ardent follower of Gandhi, was rallying the masses. His speeches ignited the flame of nationalism in the hearts of millions. He was instrumental in launching the Quit India movement in 1942, a civil disobedience campaign that demanded an end to British rule. These movements shook the very foundations of the British Empire in India. They were not just political protests. They were a manifestation of the collective will of a nation yearning for freedom. The people were no longer willing to live under colonial rule. They wanted to shape their own destiny. And so, the wheels of change were set in motion. The struggle was long and arduous, but the spirit of the Indian people remained unbroken. They were united in their desire for freedom, and their collective voice grew louder with each passing day. The call for freedom was loud and clear, and finally the British had to listen. On August 15, 1947, India awoke to life and freedom. It was a day that marked the end of British colonial rule and the beginning of a new era. The birth of a democracy, however, was not without its tribulations. The partition of India and Pakistan was a monumental task, fraught with tension and conflict. A line was drawn on the map, dividing the subcontinent into two separate nations. It was a time of upheaval and significant change, as millions of people found themselves on the wrong side of the border and were forced to migrate. In the midst of this turmoil, the leaders of the newly independent India were faced with the monumental task of creating a new democratic nation. It was a daunting challenge, but they were determined to build a country that was governed by its people, for its people. The Indian Constitution, which was drafted over a period of nearly 3 years, became the backbone of this new democracy. It was a document that enshrined the rights and freedoms of every Indian citizen, irrespective of their caste, creed, or gender. It established a democratic government with power vested in the hands of the people. In the face of adversity and against all odds, India emerged as a beacon of democracy. It was a testament to the strength and resilience of its people, who had endured centuries of colonial rule and fought valiantly for their freedom. From the ashes of colonial rule, the world's largest democracy was born. The journey from a British colony to a democratic republic was long and fraught with challenges. We've traced the arrival of the British, witnessed the zenith of their rule, and felt the fervor of the struggle for independence. We saw the birth of a democracy, as India emerged from the shadows of colonial rule. Today, India stands as a testament to the power of resilience and the spirit of democracy. A story that began with subjugation, ended with freedom and self-governance.